I was at my desk at the warehouse office in Springfield, Missouri, slogging through third quarter inventory discrepancies when my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. Local area code, Tuesday afternoon. I almost let it ring out, but something in my gut made me swipe. "Is this Gavin Cole?" the voice asked, gravelly, older, calm, like someone who'd never once rushed a thing in his life. "Yeah, who's this?" "Sal Rizzo. I run Rizzo's Loan and Gold down on Maple Avenue. Think I've got something that belongs to you, a men's Omega Seamaster." I half laughed without thinking. "Nah, that can't be right. That watch is in my desk drawer. Always is." I pulled the drawer open, still chuckling, and froze. It was empty. The little black leather case that held Dad's watch. Gone. "Sir," Sal said on the line. "You still there? Quick note, before we continue, tell us in the comments where in the world you're tuning in from. Now, back to the story." Yeah, I'm here. "The watch, it's not in my drawer. It's gone." Sal let out a low breath. "Thought so. Probably best if you come down here. I'd rather not talk details over the phone." I told my supervisor I needed to step out for something personal, didn't wait for questions. Grabbed my keys, wallet, and left my lunch on the desk like an idiot. My hands were shaking halfway down Sunshine Street. The watch had been in that drawer since the week after Dad died, almost 4 years ago. I kept it close, not because it was flashy. To be honest, most people didn't even know what they were looking at. But because of the night he gave it to me, he was already weak, could barely hold up a cup of water without help. I sat next to his hospital bed while the nurse messed with his IV. He reached over, pressed the case into my hand, and said, "This is yours, Gav. Your time is your own now. Don't let anyone else spend it." That was the last full sentence I ever got from him, and now it was gone. I pulled into the strip mall lot, sat with the engine idling for a second, trying to stop my jaw from clenching so hard it ached. I looked up at the dusty pawn shop sign glowing weakly behind dirty glass. The name Rizzo's flickered, like it couldn't decide if it wanted to be open or not. I killed the engine and got out. The bell over the door gave a tired jingle as I stepped inside. The place smelled like burnt dust and cold metal. A busted air conditioner hummed in the ceiling, but didn't seem to help at all. Counters were cluttered with everything from rusted tools to cheap watches that wanted to look expensive but couldn't pull it off. Sal looked up from behind the glass, eyes landing on the watch box in my hand. Or maybe it was my face. He had that look, like he'd already figured something out before I said a word. "You Gavin?" he asked. I nodded, and he stepped out from behind the counter. He wasn't tall, but he had the kind of shoulders you don't lose even when the rest of you starts to fold. His hands were thick, calloused, and one wore a worn union ring. A thin scar crossed his middle knuckle, like it had been split open once and never quite closed right. "You look like Ray," he said, voice going softer than I expected. "Your old man used to come in here now and then. Solid guy. Knew how to handle a roof and keep his word." He disappeared through a battered swinging door behind the counter and came back holding a scuffed black leather box I knew like my own name. My chest tightened. He set it gently on the glass and opened it. There it was. Dad's Omega Seamaster. Silver dial, blue bezel. The second hand ticked smooth like butter. It looked smaller than I remembered. Fragile, even. Like it needed someone to fight for it. "Kid came in yesterday," Sal said, eyes not leaving the watch. "Big talker, early 20s maybe. Said he had a tech startup. Dropped phrases like angel rounds, seed capital, burn rate. Like he was pitching a room full of suits, not pawning a watch." I kept my hands in my pockets so I wouldn't smash one into the glass. "Normally I don't dig deep," Sal continued. "But your dad, he once pawned this watch with me, 17 years ago. Paid me out in 22 days. $3,400. I checked the book." He pulled a dog-eared ledger from under the counter and flipped through. Showed me the entry. Sure enough, Ray Cole, Omega Seamaster, loan amount, date. That was right around when I started at St. Bart's Prep, and Dad was juggling tuition, hospital bills, and winter roofing gigs with frozen hands. "But that's not why I called," he added, tapping the box. "Watch had a catch, almost invisible. I only remembered it because your dad showed me once, just messing around while we talked." He pressed his thumb just right, and the caseback clicked open like a secret door. Inside was a tiny folded square of paper, tight as a thumbnail. "I didn't read it," Sal said. "Didn't feel right. I figured if anyone had a right to, it was you. I reached for it, fingers stiff, chest buzzing like I'd swallowed a live wire. Sal let the silence stretch. Then he slid the watch box toward me like it weighed nothing, but I could tell he knew it didn't. "You want to sit?" he asked. I didn't answer, I just picked up the paper. I held the tiny folded paper like it might crumble if I breathed too hard. My fingers were stiff, and for a second I couldn't get the edge to open. When it finally peeled apart, Dad's tight block handwriting filled the inside, steady as if he'd written it yesterday instead of years before. "Gav, if you're reading this, something happened to the watch. Go to Heritage First Bank, box 732, keys in my framing square." My throat went dry. The last line punched harder than the rest. "The watch is yours, but what's in the box is your future." I read it twice just to make sure I wasn't imagining anything. Dad never wasted words. If he said something was my future, he meant it. "You good?" Sal asked from behind the counter. His voice was careful, like he didn't want to spook me. I nodded, though I barely felt present. "I need to buy the watch back. What's the amount?" "The kid tried to sell it for $9,250, Sal said. He talked nonstop about his app, burn rates, angel money, all that garbage. Half of it didn't make sense, and the half that did told me he was full of it." He pushed the watch box toward me, then slid a white slip across the counter. "But I opened the buy ticket and voided it the second I recognized your dad's watch. Paper shows a voided intake. No sale completed." He pulled a printed still from his CCTV system and set it beside the slip. "Figured you might want a copy for your records." I stared at the documents, then at the watch, and felt my jaw lock tight. "I can't just take it. That's not how this works. You should at least let me pay something for it." Sal shook his head with a low grunt. "Your dad once did a roof job for me at cost. My daughter needed surgery, and I was drowning in bills. He showed up the next morning with a crew and knocked it out in 2 days. Wouldn't take a dime more than materials. Didn't even let me buy him lunch." He rested his hands on the counter, thick fingers tapping once. He never mentioned it again, so as far as I'm concerned, voiding this ticket settles that tab with him. My chest tightened, and for a second I couldn't speak. Dad had done favors like that for people his whole life, and half the time I never heard about them until years later. He wasn't loud about it. He just showed up where he was needed. I picked up the watch and slipped it onto my wrist. The weight settled in like it had been waiting for me. The second hand swept smooth, steady, and I swear it felt like my pulse synced with it. "Thank you," I said, and my voice came out rougher than I meant. "Really, I won't forget this, not any of it." Sal gave a small nod. "Just remember who actually earned that watch, and take care of whatever your dad left for you." I closed the box, shoved the note deep in my pocket, and headed for the door. My hand was already on the handle. I didn't knock, just drove straight from the pawn shop to the house and walked through the front door like it still meant something to me. They were in the kitchen, Mom and Dennis, leaning over the laptop with papers spread out like a low-rent tax office. Bank statements, printed emails, even a folder with Logan funding options scribbled in Sharpie. They froze when they saw me, not long, just a beat. Enough to register guilt before they switched gears and pasted on confusion, like they were surprised I didn't text first. I dropped the black watch box right between them. The sound echoed off the counter. "Looking for this?" I asked. Dennis opened his mouth, probably loading up one of his smooth, grown-up voices he used when trying to settle people down. I didn't give him the chance. "Who gave you permission to dig through my stuff? How do you get from watch in my drawer to pawn shop counter?" Mom stood straighter, shoulders stiff. "Gavin, don't start like this." "No," I snapped. "I'm starting exactly how this deserves. You broke into my desk. You handed off my father's watch to Logan like it was just laying around waiting for a startup pitch." Dennis raised a hand like we were in court. "Let's just take a breath. I'm not interested in your mediations, Dennis. I want an answer." Mom crossed her arms, still trying to stay calm. "Logan has potential. He's working hard. This is a family home. Sometimes families share resources." "Resources?" I repeated. "You think this was a group asset?" She didn't blink. "You left your keyring here for the mail, and Dennis had someone make a copy of your desk key. That's how we got it. We didn't force anything open." That line just about did it. "You copied my key?" "It's not like you were using the watch," she added, like that somehow made it okay. I stared at both of them. Dennis looked slightly uncomfortable, but not sorry. Mom looked dug in, like she was still convinced she could argue this into logic. Logan's resources are long gone, I said. He blew through a trust fund on an extended European road trip and a German sedan he totaled in under a year. Dennis exhaled like he was tired of babysitting. This is exactly what I mean. You're clinging to a piece of metal when you could be part of something scalable. You're sitting on an idle asset. I almost laughed. Dead equity, that watch was Dad's promise. The only thing he didn't let cancer or bills or roofing jobs strip away. It wasn't yours to touch. Mom cut in, voice sharper now. Gavin, he did it for the family. He's trying to build something real, not just punch a clock like your father did. That was it. I stepped closer to the counter. You're going to repay every single dollar of the $9,250 he tried to take from me. Or I'm filing a police report for theft and key duplication. I already have the CCTV footage and the voided pawn ticket with Logan's face on it. Dennis's lips tightened. You're threatening your own mother over a watch. No, I said. I'm holding thieves accountable. You picked the wrong thing to steal. I picked up the folder with Logan's name on it and tossed it in the trash can by the fridge. Then I walked out without waiting for a single word back. I barely made it halfway down the driveway before Dennis followed me out, smirking like this was all some misunderstanding we'd laugh about next week. Relax, Gavin. It's already invested. Share Stack Labs. You'll thank me when it goes public. I turned back. Did you seriously just say that with a straight face? He shrugged like I was the crazy one. Mom came out behind him, her voice sharper now. You don't threaten family over something like this. You're making a scene over a thing. I stepped closer so she could see my face clear. It's not a thing. It's the one thing Dad saved for me. He didn't pawn it to cover family dinners. He gave it to me the night before he died and said it was mine. Not yours, not Logan's, mine. She looked like she wanted to say something else but held it in. Then Logan came out of the side door, talking fast like he'd just finished a pitch deck. Hey, Gavin, I heard yelling. Look, about the watch, I didn't mean... He stopped cold when he saw it on my wrist. His mouth kept moving, but it wasn't an apology. Not a real one. Just noise. I was gonna buy it back once the platform launched. We're onboarding beta users already, and early feedback's been insane. I raised my hand to cut him off. There's a police report already drafted. Your name's on it. If I don't have the money, every dollar of it, in 24 hours, I'm submitting it. Logan blinked like he wasn't used to being spoken to that way. You're serious? Dead serious. Mom crossed her arms, mouth tight. You're acting ungrateful. After everything we've done for you, we let you stay here. I paid above market for a basement room with a mildew problem, I shot back. I fixed your busted fence for free. I even patched your front steps last winter while Logan was out shopping for performance tires. Dennis stepped between us, like he could calm it down just by standing tall. Nobody's trying to hurt anybody here. I didn't move. Then pay me back. He glanced at Logan, who was looking anywhere but at me. It's all tied up in the early dev phase. You'll get it back once we scale. I pulled out my phone. Wrong answer. I'll be moving out by the end of the week. My lawyer will contact you about reimbursement, plus interest. This isn't going away. Logan finally looked at me. I'll pay you back. You'll pay me back within 24 hours, I said. No beta launch, no scale talk, just cash. Or we do this the hard way. Then I walked back inside to pack my things. I went straight to the garage, didn't stop to say another word. The metal toolbox sat under a drop cloth near the water heater, right where Dad left it. I flipped open the latches and dug through layers of rusted sockets, splintered pencils, and cold steel, until I found his old framing square at the bottom, wrapped in an oily rag. The square still had tape around the inner arm, just like I remembered from when I was a kid. I peeled it back slowly, and there it was, tucked under clear plastic, barely bigger than a paperclip. A tiny brass key. Dad never threw anything away without a reason. I should have known he'd hide something important right next to the tools he trusted most. The next morning, I drove downtown to a squat red brick building with a green awning that hadn't been updated since the late 90s, Heritage First Bank, one of the few places in town still doing private safe deposit boxes the old way. Dad helped reframe the second floor after a flood, probably 25 years back. The branch manager was a gray-haired guy named Dale. When I told him my last name, his eyebrows went up. Ray Cole's boy? He asked. He was one of the good ones. Took care of my mom's porch in a rainstorm, no charge. Said it was too dangerous to leave another day. He didn't ask many questions after that. Just checked my ID, nodded at the matching names on the rental card, and led me to the vault. Box 732 opened with 2 keys, mine and the bank's. Inside was a thick manila envelope, a leather-bound notebook that looked like it had seen 2 decades of job sites, and a single folded letter. I opened the letter first. It was written in the same neat block print from the watch note. Gav, I started this box the year you were born. Someday I knew you'd need breathing room, and I didn't want you stuck trading hours for scraps like I did. I swallowed hard and opened the envelope. Inside were bearer bonds. No names, no banks, just value. A lot of it. I counted and recounted. Face value totaled $142,000. Dad had written a note in pencil on the inside flap. These should be worth about this much by now, maybe more depending on rates. I sat back against the steel wall, shaking my head. The notebook was next. Dozens of pages filled with tiny writing, contact names, addresses, work orders, dates, material costs, even down payments. Everything was sorted by year. This wasn't a journal. It was a ledger. Every job he'd ever taken, even ones people probably thought he'd forgotten about. He marked a dozen entries with stars and a red underline. At the back, he'd written a short summary. Unpaid or underpaid work, estimated value $61,000, all verified with receipts and work agreements. Under that, one more line, written in blue pen instead of pencil. You're quiet like me. That doesn't make you less. Use this to buy your time back. I sat there in the vault like a statue, smiling like an idiot and trying not to fall apart. I'd spent years thinking Dad left me a watch. Turns out, he left me a second chance. I slid the notebook back into the envelope, sealed it, and stood up fast. I drove straight to a no-frills motel off Route 60 after I left the vault. Spent the evening at a laminate desk with a pad of paper and a cold gas station sandwich, making lists like I was planning a war. One column for the bonds, one for the debts, one for housing, and one titled Logan, because that was its own category. The next morning, I walked into the law office of Diane Vasquez, downtown near the courthouse. Plain building, no receptionist, just her name on the door in gold vinyl. She met me in jeans and a blazer, no pretense, hair tied back, handshake quick. She only smiled with her eyes. I handed her the ledger and the bonds. She flipped through both like she'd seen 1,000 just like them, but still respected every page. Your father kept records like a contractor's dream, she said. No fluff, no gaps, handwritten, but tight. He knew what he was doing. She pulled a calculator from her drawer and jotted numbers on a legal pad. The bonds are bearer and valid. We can get them liquidated in under a week through the right clearing firm. I pointed to 3 red-starred entries near the back. What about these? Benson and Pike Builders, $18,600. She squinted at the names, then tapped the page with her pen. This invoice is dated less than 30 days before your father's diagnosis. Good paper. You've got a signed work order, material receipts, and a photo attached of the completed framing. Perfect storm. So what's my move? These don't vanish just because the craftsman passed away, she said. Legally, you can pursue full recovery as his beneficiary. Give me 10 weeks, and I'll make a lot of noise. You'll get paid, or we'll put someone on the record. We signed a recovery agreement on the spot. Her retainer wasn't cheap, but I covered it from savings. And when I walked out with the paperwork in hand, I felt lighter than I had in years. By mid-afternoon, I was back at the house, packing up what was mine. 2 suitcases, Dad's toolbox, a cardboard box of old baseballs from my Little League years. His tape measure wasn't useful anymore. It barely retracted and had someone's name carved into the bottom from decades back, but I took it anyway. I was hauling the second suitcase through the side door when Mom appeared in the doorway, arms crossed, blocking half the light. "Where exactly do you think you're going?" she asked. I didn't stop. "To get my life back." She didn't say anything, just stood there like she expected me to beg for something. I slid the last suitcase into the back seat, shut the door, and turned the engine over without looking back. No hug, no lecture, no closure, and no goodbye. By the end of the week, Mom was already on the phone with half the extended family, painting me as the ungrateful son who torched his own blood over some watch. Her voice carried through those gossip chains fast. Small town, big mouths. I didn't argue. I just texted a photo of the theft report to anyone who called me. Logan's name circled in red. That shut it down faster than any excuse ever could. Calls stopped. Group chats went quiet. Dennis left a voicemail 2 days later. "Hey, Gavin, just wondering if you might be open to a small bridge loan, just to keep things stable while Logan's app matures." I didn't call back. I didn't even delete the voicemail. Just let it rot in the inbox like trash that never made it out. Diane emailed that same afternoon. Bonds had cleared at $167,400, post-accrual and tax accounted for. She attached a PDF labeled Status Update that included a new line, settlement offer from 2 of Dad's former clients, $24,700 combined to resolve old unpaid work quietly and avoid court. "You want to move forward?" she asked in the email. I told her yes. With the funds in motion, I started house hunting for real. I didn't need flash. I needed roots. Found a red brick single story on a quiet street in the same neighborhood where Dad grew up. Close to the river, 4 blocks from Manny's Diner, where Dad used to take me on Saturdays for pancakes and black coffee. The front steps needed sanding. The fence was soft at the base, but the bones were good. The inspector was a guy named Rich who looked like he hadn't worn socks in 10 years. "Old bones," he said, crouched under the house with a flashlight. "Good lines. You patch a couple leaks, this place lasts another 30 years. He pointed out a drip under the kitchen P-trap. Easy fix, afternoon job. I could already hear Dad's voice in my head. "Use plumber's putty and replace the gasket while you're at it." I made a clean offer by 4:30. Cash. Proof of funds linked to the bond account. 21-day close. The seller accepted by dinner time. Back at the motel, I tossed my keys on the dresser and pulled out the watch. Set it on the nightstand next to the lamp, no clutter, no noise. Just a quiet tick, steady and patient. I turned off the light, laid back on the stiff mattress, and let the room go still. 10 weeks later, Logan's big platform cratered like a sinkhole. There was no code, no build. Just branding and buzzwords. He'd leased a downtown office, hired a copywriter, and paid $3,000 for a logo that looked like it belonged on a sneaker box. The rest had no substance. That same week, Diane sent a formal demand letter to Dennis and Logan Hatcher for $9,250 plus $612 in interest and legal fees. Copies went to Mom. Dennis called my phone mid-afternoon like he was still in charge of something. "You overreacted to your own family over a supposed misunderstanding," he said. "You embarrassed us." I didn't miss a beat. "You did that yourself the minute you copied my key and handed off my father's watch." He tried to pivot, but I hung up before he finished the next sentence. 2 days later, Benson and Pike Builders paid in full, $18,600, wired straight to Diane's escrow account. No negotiation, no delays. They didn't want their books dragged into court discovery. Diane forwarded the payment receipt with the subject line, "1 down, 2 to go." She also compiled a full packet outlining Logan's pattern, taking from relatives, stiffing tradesmen, using fake deadlines and vague promises to dodge repayment. He had 3 prior pilot projects, each with a trail of unpaid help. Same blueprint, different victims. I sent the packet to the owner of the co-working space Logan had been bragging about. He'd posted all over LinkedIn about the partnership. I figured they had a right to know who they were dealing with. Didn't take long. A week later, Logan texted me a photo of a cashier's check made out for $9,250 with an added note, plus $612 in interest. His message said, "Can we be good?" I replied with 2 words, "Payment received," then forwarded it to Diane and archived the whole thread. The next day, Mom sent a long, winding message about grace, forgiveness, and not letting money come between blood. She said she wished I'd handled it within the family like adults. I didn't bother calling her back. I just texted, "Family doesn't steal time," and left it at that. She hit me with another paragraph, said I was being dramatic, that I was holding a grudge over a misunderstanding, that Dennis only wanted what was best for Logan. She closed with, "You used to have such a kind heart." I typed and deleted 3 different responses before sending the only one that mattered. "I'm done pretending this is normal." She didn't reply after that. Later that afternoon, I stopped by the title office to sign the final paperwork on the house. When I stepped out, the cashier's check from Logan was still in my coat pocket. I walked across the street and handed it to Diane in person. "Let's make it official," I said. The day I signed the closing papers, I drove straight to the new place with the back seat full of what little I owned. The lawn was patchy, the shutters needed sanding, and the front lock stuck just enough to remind me it was mine. I carried Dad's toolbox into the garage and set it on the back shelf next to a rusted-out vise. It looked like it had always been there. The place wasn't big, but it didn't need to be. One story, a kitchen with cabinet doors that creaked like old knees, a narrow hallway that smelled like plaster and sun-baked wood. The backyard was mostly dirt and weeds, but it had a gate that hung crooked and begged to be fixed. That was enough. That night, I unpacked slow, laid the Seamaster on the nightstand, and opened the secret panel one more time. Not because I needed to check anything inside, but because I wanted to feel what it meant, that he thought ahead, that he saw me standing here, years before I ever had the guts to. Diane called that week with the last recovery update. $46,900 total collected from outstanding work. West Fork HVAC cut a check on the courthouse steps for $3,600. She sounded pleased, but not surprised. Said, "Your father built more than roofs, Gavin. He built leverage. You just used it." Dennis called once after that. "We should level set," he said in the message. "Clear the air." I let it go to voicemail. Logan never called at all. Mom mailed a Thanksgiving card. One of those mass-printed ones with leaves and cornucopias. Inside was a photo of a casserole, 2 people I didn't recognize, and a line in her handwriting. "We missed you this year." I set it on the kitchen counter, left it there a few days, then dropped it in a drawer and forgot about it. Evenings were quiet. No TV, no noise, just me on the back step with a cheap beer and the sound of the watch ticking steady on my wrist. That tick used to make me feel small, like time was something I owed. Now it felt like it was mine. Dad once wrote that time is the only real currency. He wasn't talking about minutes on a job site. He meant what people take from you when you stay quiet, when you let them pretend their wants are worth more than your boundaries. I'm not quiet anymore. The watch is mine. So is my time. And I'm done giving either away to anyone who thinks they deserve it more than I do. One last question. How would you set boundaries if family took what's yours? Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Even something as simple as "great story" means a lot to me.